processes, I'm guessing that the majority of you are wearing all those hats. And what's cool about it is you can contract all 5 of those to different people. You could contract one section and then you keep it. And you can also do it based on what to do. My mission is to the organs do what they do best, and that's providing their mission. That's why there's some areas I myself don't necessarily dabble too much in, and that would be the program needs. I don't necessarily create the programs. The programs are usually established. And the other one that I don't do as much of is I don't do the writing. I draft the writing, but then I pass it on to someone else to review and write that grant. So identifying what you're good at, what your gift is really key to subcontracting out those processes. Can I ask if anybody in the chat, or even if anybody wants to go off mute, are you currently doing all 5 of these processes yourself, or do you have a team? Does anybody want to share?
Self.
Yourself, okay, cool. Team of 1, yep, all 4, but managing the grants, okay. If you don't mind, the Marie, I think you said that you had 4. Just out of curiosity, do you remember which area you contracted out first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just meant that I'm responsible for maybe 4, but not necessarily the managing of the grants. But that's in-house. I'm an employee, so not a contractor.
Okay, gotcha. Do you happen to be the founder?
No, it's a larger nonprofit.
Okay, I was just
But
curious.
we are a small team though. So.
Okay, gotcha. And do you, just out of curiosity, do you have one area that you feel like you thrive on, or?
I would say probably the preparing the proposal and the writing and refining are kind of like where I spend most of the time in the process.
Okay, gotcha. And I asked that question, and thank you, Marie, for answering that. But I asked that question because honestly, if you love what you're doing, kind of like what I do, you have a tendency to be a little bit, or not a little bit, but you're going to put more into it, your energy, everything else. So I think it really does make a difference whether you love doing what you're doing, the skill set. If you hate writing, which I have to admit, thank God for AI, because now I don't hate writing so much. It's going to show in your work and your applications. Anybody else want to share which area they potentially love to do and what they hate to do in the process? Don't be shy. And you don't have to get on video.
I go after I like defining the need, and I like preparing, or actually more of the write and refine. I hate the managing and sustaining.
Okay. Gotcha. And I do think that managing and sustaining is something that people so forget about. An example is, let's say you are awarded that grant, but keep that relationship going, whether you subscribe to their newsletters or you just check in on a regular basis to manage that relationship. And oftentimes it is potentially the founder or the executive director, but it's just your manager of the grants can help streamline that process. For an example, I have a client that I currently do that with. I get notices of different things going on in her area, and I'm like, oh, don't forget, you should probably attend this event, just to stay in with that relationship. And I need to probably back up a little bit too, is when it comes to subcontracting, what the difference between subcontracting is versus having an employee. Basically, how I work is I receive a 1099 for my services that I bill throughout the year. And as an employee, the organization is paying for the benefits, and it's costing them potentially more when it comes to the benefits, when it comes to the taxes. And they potentially have a little bit more control over me and telling me when I have to get things done. As a subcontractor, I'm allowed to, say I'm going to work these hours, and some days on Fridays I might take off, or I might not be available at certain times. So that's potentially one of the drawbacks. But when it comes to the whole grants management process, so much of that can be done behind the scenes anyways. So in reality, that's not a bad thing. And another reason I shifted to the nonprofit sector when it comes to subcontracting is sometimes an organization can't afford to hire somebody when you're paying benefits. And luckily, I'm in a position where I don't necessarily need those benefits. So it works out. It's kind of a win-win situation for all of us. So I probably should define in my presentation what the difference between subcontracting is versus hiring people as employees. Anybody have any questions specific to the subcontracting part of it? Hearing nothing, so I guess I'll go ahead and move on. So here I laid out the 5 different areas of the grant process and some of the goals that each area has. And in the previous presentation, she said too, is there a task? You take a look at defining the programs. In reality, luckily, if you get big enough, you're going to have a specific programs manager. And I highly recommend having like a programs metrics worksheet. So then you are able to establish all these 3 goals. So when it comes to defining in the program, is a lot of times with these grants, you don't have necessarily a program established, but that's where if you can find some grants that they're willing to fund some of your programs that aren't established. So working with your programs manager to make sure that you are knowing what your programs are is really key. And to me, there's also a difference. Well, there's a difference between a programs manager and a facilitator. A facilitator is actually doing the work for the students or the demographics that you're serving. So the research and the connecting. This is where I thrive. I love to do the research part of it. I'm kind of geeky when it comes to software, and there is some tools that I use when it comes to the research part. And so being able to use some of these tools, like I don't know if the rest of you use project management tools like Asana. I do currently. One of my clients is using Salesforce, and I honestly don't recommend Salesforce if you are a small team because it's very robust. But what we do in the project management software is we identify these goals for each role that they need to potentially reach. So it's just a good way to know where everybody is on certain grants. And when it comes to the networking part of this particular column here, that doesn't necessarily need to be the person that does the research. Like our founder, I find the networking events that she can go to, and then she is actually the one that does the networking because, to be honest, they don't want to see the bookkeeper. They want to see the founder. They want to see the one that is behind the scenes. And when I do the research, this I identify the deadlines and things like that. And we happen to use Salesforce for that, but there are different, you could just use a spreadsheet to do things like that. Preparing the proposal. This is the other thing that I feel like I thrive on a little bit. I was able to help the client actually organize all their documents. There's usually about 13 documents that you have in a profile, and different applications ask for different things. So I start by prepping the actual application, and there's a tool, a software tool called Grant Able. If you aren't using that, I highly recommend that as well. They have really come quite far with what they do. You can actually put the grant application in this tool, and you can have them answer the questions based on your source documents. So that makes it easier for me to draft it and then get it ready so I can move it to the writing and the refining person. So those are just some tips on the tools that you should probably take a look into doing that. And this is, I'm kind of the grants manager, so I use that programs management tool to assign people different things that they need to do and what deadlines. Yep. Heather, you asked what the tool was. Yes, it's called Grant Able, and it's basically an AI tool, but it seems like, I mean, they haven't been around for too long, but it's a robust system. And I believe we're paying $24 a month, but to me, it's well worth it. Especially somebody like me that doesn't really care to write. I just find that to be a very helpful tool. Absolutely, Heather. The other thing that I find when I'm preparing the proposal that we've started to use is basically a kind of a narrative template. So I prepare some of the base questions that a lot of our grants ask for, and it's just a template that I can go to that, and I can put that into Grant Able and kind of tweak it for the application that I'm preparing. So when we look at the writing and the refining, the current executive director that I'm working with, she's really trying to get me to that point. And honestly, I don't know. I'll try it. I'll give it a try, but it's not for everybody. And one thing that people don't realize, or the organizations think, is that the grant writers don't deserve to get paid unless they receive the grant. That's absolutely not true. They're putting their time and effort into it. So finding a good grant writer is definitely something that you need to pay for. And one of the things that we do is, when it comes to writing and refining, and we have one team member that's really good about taking a look at the application and saying, yep, this is what they're asking for. This is, what we provide. And to have somebody on the team that can articulate what actually is what they're asking for in the grant application is kind of key when it comes to the writer as well. And then the proofreading and the clarity. And as I said, I don't know, honestly, what I did before AI, because that's just been such a lifesaver for me. So I truly love AI. So the managing and the sustaining piece of it, like I said, hopefully you were awarded all these grants that you apply for, but that's not always the case. So there's really different, you have to make sure that you follow through on the, like every 3 months, take a look and see how you can continue to build that relationship. And even if you apply for a grant, you ask the funder, what was it that we didn't necessarily succeed on, and get kind of an idea of why that potentially happened. And then the other thing is, if you are awarded, you often have to do impact reports. And we've gotten to the point where we don't just do an impact report because they request it. We do it for all the grants. And that is really a key. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be just a one-sheeter about, what that grant was about and how you actually fulfilled the grant. It just shows your impact, and it gives you some more data to share with other funders too. So I highly recommend establishing a template so that you can say, this is how we did the impact. So many people forget about that impact report. So I had mentioned, all of us have gifts and we all have a love for different things. So with Virtual Team 360, of the 5 different areas that I suggest potentially subcontracting, my 3 are the researching and the connecting, 2 preparing the proposal, helping it to get it prepped for the writer or the reviewer, and then helping manage and sustain that area. So just so you're aware, the other 2 areas, it's not that I don't want to do them. It's just I don't feel like that is my gifted area. And normally how I begin my process is we just do a kickoff meeting. Like most of you, either connect with that person on a call or you don't connect. And at this point, I can't say that there's a particular nonprofit area that I really like. But the one, I work with financial literacy right now, and like the housing industry, I really enjoy working with as well. So we do that kickoff call. We kind of see what your needs are, and then you choose what areas you need the help in, and then I do an onboarding call, and then hopefully you can see those funds come in. And this can actually be the whole true for a donor relationship package too, but this is particular to my grants services that I provide. And then this is just kind of an idea of potentially how much I charge. And as you can see, most of the time, if you hire an employee, you're not going to be able to get the packaged prices of this for that amount of money. And it's a little bit more affordable for your organization. The other thing I would like to do before I get off the phone with you is I wanted to show you an example of what I use in the Salesforce. I created a template basically of the different tasks that need to be done for the grant application process. This is kind of what I would do for you as well. And it's a long process. It's, it doesn't happen overnight. So we identify the funding. We make sure we figure out which program aligns best with their mission. I prep the application, and I also, with my bookkeeping services, I do help develop your budgets. Some applications provide a template, some don't. So we're able to prep that budget, and then I draft the application, and then I push it off to the actual writer. So that's just a little bit about the different areas. And then what I had done is with this template, I basically duplicate this card, is what they call it, for each grant. So then we have an idea what the funder's mission is, the partner contact, and what we're asking for. And so this is a good way that we identify what grants that we have applied for. The program that I'm using, that is in Salesforce, but honestly, you can use that in Asana. I'm trying to think of ClickUp. I think that's another one. So yeah, right now it's just Salesforce. Yes, it does have a lot of the same features as Teams does. Absolutely. And I honestly, I cringed when our founder, executive director, told me that we were going to go with Salesforce, because we actually have to contract out with somebody that onboards Salesforce, and that is not cheap. I prefer to learn how to run a program and allow the team to do that too. If you're spending so much money on consulting of the software, it defeats the purpose of getting the grant, in my opinion. And one of the other planner sheets that I've done too is once you are awarded the grant, there's also a process to, you file your award letters, how you file your documentation, and then announcing it, getting it out there on social media, receiving the funds and actually confirming that you received those to the donor is necessary as well. And then I happen to I do the bookkeeping for this one particular client, so I enter it in QuickBooks as well. And speaking of QuickBooks, I'm not sure how the rest of you identify your grants, but we use what they call class codes, and I highly recommend that as well. So then you can get a picture of, oh, we had 10 grants, and this is particularly what we actually spent on each grant. So you can run reports that way as well. So I just create a planner sheet or a template for the different tasks in connected to both the application process and the award process. So I would love for you guys to stay in touch with me. I will go ahead and put in here the link to my swag bag, unless Brian, I don't know if you're able to do that for me. It doesn't matter. And if you guys want to, come off mute and tell me if you have any other questions in regards to the subcontracting process.
Yes, I can. First of all, send it to me. I'll make sure it gets put in the swag bag, and everybody will get it. So that'll be a first for sure. See, there you go.
Okay.
Swag bag. Sorry it took so long. I got it right there.
Yes, right.
All right. Do we have any questions for anybody out there? From anybody out there? Anybody?
I'm reading Heather's.
Okay.
Prospective client that is in a mess financially but has lots of potential. How do you begin to break that down? So that's a great question, Heather. And honestly, my first thought is to have them or suggest to them that they work with a fundraising consultant. And actually, I like to actually call them fund development consulting, because it's not always just about the grants. Somebody that can help strategize what their goals are is really key. And I say I'm more like on the baseball team. I'm actually I'm the field. I'm out in the field. I'm a doer, but the strategist is the coach. They really need to start with a coach, in my opinion, or a consultant. Does that make sense? Or are you the one that's in the mess, Heather? Is your organization in the mess? And you can be upfront. That's why we're here today. We just want to have everybody's. Okay, good. So, Brian, did you have any other questions in regards to subcontracting?
No, because I do that myself as a grant writer. I get a lot of people who hit me up on writing grants. I mean, I think part of it we hit, because I asked to jump out for a second to introduce Tarika, who's talking about being grant ready. And one of the things, and I think that Colette, that you hit on quite a bit, that a lot of people need to figure is to be grant ready. To Tarika and I in the other room joked about this, but I mean, how many people have we all gotten that say, hey, I got my 501c3 last Thursday. Can you write me a grant? No, we probably can't. I mean, we could, but it's not going to get funded, or it'll be a long
Right.
shot. People have to understand that the process that goes into to doing all this is not just, I mean, I get so tired. And one of the reasons why when I left the Boys and Girls Club, my last club, is, their attitude when the board didn't raise enough money like they were supposed to. Well, Brian can write a grant. Brian can write a grant. And, and it's not that easy.
Yeah.
So having it, I tell everybody this, I'm a type B type person. I'm imaginative. I'm ideas. Details are not my strength, which is why I always work with people who are type A's to make sure. But it's one of those things that you've got to put it all into perspective and understand how the system works. And a good grant writing system is going through the steps that you need to make sure you're grant ready, going through the steps to make sure somebody reports correctly, make sure you thank the nonprofit, the foundation or the organization that gave you the money. Those are things that are really important. And again, as I said, I was the moderator in Lindsay's room earlier, and I was like, this is not exciting and this is not the fun part, but it is so necessary that you do it right, or you're gonna mess your chances up going forward with other foundations and stuff like that. Because these organizations talk, folks. They have a list. I know that because I've scored grants, and they'll put organizations on the blacklist, quote unquote, that because these people they didn't do a report. I mean, we're not talking about criminal activities. Like I said, hey, I need $10,000 to build a playground, and I don't build a playground. That's illegal. That's wrong.
Right.
But the reporting, the thank yous, the follow through is what's so important.
Yeah.
And again, everything Colette was talking about and everything that they do at Virtual Team 360 is the not fun stuff, but it's the stuff that keeps getting you funded. You need a goofball like me writing these stuff and being excited, and let me hear your mission, and we got this. But if I don't have someone like Colette with me, I'm just writing, So it's real important that everybody gets that, the unfun, no offense, but I mean, the stuff that's not as dynamic and out there, but it's necessary. So yeah, that's my 2 cents worth on what you're doing. And I appreciate every single person that I've ever worked with. I always make sure, I think I always say I was successful because I had a very type A, organized, linear person to work with. And that's what you need. That's what I think is super important. So yes, I commend you for what you do, and I thank you so much.
Yeah. And the other thing I would like to bring up about the subcontracting world too is if you are an organization that necessarily is not ready, if you have a grant writer that takes you on and that you're not ready, that upsets me. Because I'm like, if the grant writer knows that you are not ready, then don't take that client on. Right. And I had a couple people get a hold of me, and I think some of them they wanted to apply for the grants, but I had told them, I said, I'm going to suggest that you go to the fundraising or fund development consultant, because you need a strategy, and it's only fair to do that to for them, because otherwise they're wasting your money, you're wasting time, and honestly, it even potentially comes to that when it comes to their bookkeeping as well. I always say they need to work with an accountant or a CPA, and I'll be glad to do the books once they meet with that person, but I'm not going to potentially take it on if I can tell that it's going to be a mess and that they haven't, done their due diligence.
Well, it's almost, since you were talking about the subcontracting, one of the things, one of my takeaways from the first session I was in moderating for Dr. Browning was, we all, for those of us who are independent grant writers and do stuff, we all want to make some money. We all want to take some grants, but she said, you've got to have the virtue. You got to have the strength to do what Colette's saying right now. Say, no, you're sorry. I don't want to just write you a grant that I know will get funded, that won't get funded, I should say. Because you're not ready for it. She said so many times, like I just mentioned, so many times board members go, hey, I just heard about this grant. Can you write it? I could write it.
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to get it. I think you're better off spending your money in an area where we're going to have strength for this grant. We kind of fit, but not really. And maybe if, anytime you have to justify that, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. And this client that I'm working with, that I'm doing her grants management, except for the writing piece, because I chose not to, she's also had me contracted me out to do her board liaison. And I said, I'm very much a doer. I'm the one that somebody says, okay, this organization needs this. Colette, you know, here's what we need, and then I can figure out the process.
Right.
And then I do the everyday operations things. So.
All right. Well, are there any
Yeah.
other questions? Now we finished a little early in here. Thank you, Colette, so much. That was wonderful. We finished a little early, so if any of you guys want to, rooms 2 and 3 are still rolling. If you wanted to hop, I can hop anybody straight from here. Please just put it down in the in your comments, but down below, and um, I can definitely move you. We've got in room 1. That's where we've got Tarika talking about the grant readiness. And in room 3 is Dr. Chrissy Wright, and she's talking about compliance. Again, not exciting, but totally necessary, because if you do it wrong, you'll mess things up. So if you want in, just tell me. If you don't, I'll stay in the room. Thank you, Colette, for your time, and hope to see you tomorrow. All right, Terry, I'm moving you. I see you, Terry. All right, let's see. Hold on. Amanda, getting you to 3. Move to 3. Got you, Kenneth. Got you to 2. Wait, we're in 2, Kenneth. Kenneth, I need you to do what? 3. There you go. Got you, buddy. You're all good. Anybody else? Heather, Jody, Shane? Heather, Jody, Shane. Oh, and by the way, Shane, I saw your message from earlier about I'm doing a session tomorrow morning at the first session. Um, I'll tell you all about myself and my craziness. That's that kind of thing. So we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, Heather, good deal. We'll see you later. All right, take advantage. Go, Jody. We'll see you. Yeah, I will see you. I'll see you tomorrow. Hope to see you bright and early. Remember all the times and stuff. And thanks everyone for being here. I'm gonna close this room for us. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Colette.
Yep.
Bye bye.
If I can figure out how to get out of here.
Go to the bottom right. Leave room.
Oh, okay.
There you go.